the summer 2023 IGIC quarterly meeting. Thank you all for attending here and hopping on. Right now on the agenda, I put on like 3 wins, and so my goal with that is to kind of highlight what are kind of 3 different wins that our organization's had since the last time we have met. So I'll go ahead and kick one off, and then two other people can chime in. We have scheduled our enterprise upgrade to 11.1 here in 3 weeks, so I'm excited to see all the new features and fun things. So, anyone else want to share something going on?
I just wanted to add, Greg, you're going to report back with how that upgrade goes, right? So we can all learn from that experience.
Yes, I will do so.
Excellent.
This is Adam Shell, Iowa DOT. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm mobile right now, so I apologize, but we too are looking to upgrade to 11.1 for our enterprise. We're going to delay a little bit given the tie with our LRS, but interested to hear your experience as well. We also have some timing with winter operations season tied to 511, so there's a few things going on there that I can share with others as things progress.
Okay. Well, thanks, Adam. All right. Well, unless anybody else has anything else to add, we'll jump down to the approving of the agenda. Is there any new agenda items?
I'm just going to mention, I know I'm a broken record, but anybody who's just joined in, if they could put their name and their organization in the chat, I'll just use that later to do attendance so that I can keep up on the meeting. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries, Micah.
Hey, Greg, this is Brad Cutler. I do have an item for the agenda. I didn't see it anyplace, but with BJ leaving state government, that means we have a open spot as a state representative on the IGIC board. So that's something we should probably discuss.
All right, I'll add it in for the board officers here. Thanks, Brad. Anything else that needs to be added to the agenda? All right. So I don't remember. Josh, do we have to approve this? Do we have a motion to approve? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. This is Jeff.
Second by Anya.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Hi.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. So today we got to vote in some new board officers. We have the vice chair, the secretary, and treasurer that are open. The vice chair is a 3-year term. They started as the vice chair, they step into the chair role, and they move to the past chair. That's the same. What Ben has now moved in the past chair. I have now slid up to the chair. Previously received a nomination of Nicole Shippers for the vice chair. Anybody else want to step up or run for the vice chair position at this time? Hearing.
Oh, I was gonna say, I just also second Nicole.
Okay. I was like, hearing none. So all in favor of Nicole Shippers being the vice chair of IGIC? All right, guys.
So this one, we need kind of like a quorum of the board. So if they could just put, we'll just use that chat, we save it. Just go ahead and put your name and I after it.
Yeah, for the board members.
Or who you are, so just put I.
Yeah.
We might as well use the technology we've got.
That looks to be enough.
All right. All right. So Nicole Shippers will now be the vice chair of IGIC for this year.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for stepping forward.
No problem. It's exciting and terrifying, but it'll be fine. Greg is going to pave the way perfectly for me.
I'll try my best. So now stepping down to item 3B here, secretary. Currently, I believe, Micah, you threw your name in the hat. Am I correct on that? So at our April meeting, Micah Cutler put in that. This is an annual position. So every July we go through this process. So is there anybody else that would like to be the secretary? And I know Micah is entertaining other people to run.
Yes, I encourage anyone. This is a great way to get involved in an organization. You have to talk to everyone, so it's a great way to meet people, remember names, and I will happily share all my worldly knowledge. If someone is the least bit interested, you will not be left hanging at all. But it is a great way to be involved without, having to lead things.
I think Micah does a great job, and I'm all for Micah, but if Micah's willing to step down at some point, I'd be willing to do that work as well.
Okay. Thanks, Anya. Is there anybody else?
Can I withdraw?
No.
How about Anya? No, let's have a real vote. No, I'm kidding. Let's have a real vote. No, but Anya, if you're the least bit interested, I am always ready to so-called groom as the successor.
Yeah, I think at some point you should be relieved. I mean, you're doing an awesome job, and I've always appreciated what you do, but I think you deserve a break at some point.
Well, and I am the first to tell you, and Greg would agree, he's stepping up, it's important to get new blood and people who aren't as old or haven't been in the organization as long. I think it's really important to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Not hearing any other nominees. Well, I guess, Micah, do you actually want to formally withdraw? I think you can probably do that.
No, I
Okay.
won't put that. I mean, I'm always trying to get people to run and vote, so that just seems like a cop out. So,
Okay.
but I am campaigning for Anya.
Yeah. All right. So using that chat, we'll go ahead here and vote for secretary. I guess this one, put who would you like? Yeah. No eyes.
Oh yeah, names. Yep.
Brad, you're biased.
That would have created an interesting situation, though.
Yeah.
Or not. It depends on how,
I guess I have a vote too. Okay, I'll wait.
Hold on to it in case you need it as a tiebreaker.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm like.
Typing up notes. I'm not counting. Josh, are you counting?
Yeah, I think Anya's got it.
Yeah.
Does that mean I can share my Google spread notes with her right now?
Technically, that's up to you, I guess.
Yeah.
I might actually, as a side, Anya, I might email them to you, but I'll keep, it takes a little prep for the meeting, so I wouldn't do that to you, but we can talk afterwards. Awesome. That's fantastic.
Congrats, Anya. Welcome aboard.
I love democracy.
Hey, next year I can just hand it right back.
Yeah, it's 1 year. It's low commitment. Be like, screw this. This is
Yeah.
more than I expected.
All right. 3C, the treasurer.
So before that, one thing I just thought of, if I'm moving to vice chair, I'm also currently under the county representatives. So a spot will open in the county representative
No.
section.
No,
No.
no,
No?
nope.
No.
Still,
It's just an extension of your board position.
yeah.
You are
Okay.
also still representing. So yeah, we come from the pool and you retain your representation.
Okay.
All right. So moving down to, good question, Nicole. Moving down to 3C, the treasurer here. I believe, Josh, you threw your name in the hat at the April board meeting.
Yep.
Is there anybody else who wants to nominate for the treasurer? It's another 1-year term. And all you do is play with money.
Really, it's not a whole lot of money. I mean, at this moment, it's not a real true difficult job since we took the taxes part out and the other person's, we have somebody doing the taxes, but you still have to, keep an eye on some stuff. And it all could vary depending on what we decide to do with money later on.
Mhm. Hearing no other nominations, we'll go ahead here and vote for the treasurer. Go ahead and put in that chat aye or nay for Josh.
That's good. Good enough.
All right, Josh, you'll be the treasurer for this next year. Congrats. And congrats to Anya and to Nicole as well. So stepping down to our added agenda item here for the state representative. So with BJ Covington taking over at the Polk County Assessor's Office, he can no longer be a state representative. So with that, that gives us an open state representative spot that we need to be filled. So I believe, what is it, Adam? There's 2 Adams.
Adam Shell. Yep. I'd like to put his name forward as a candidate for the position.
I see he is in the meeting as well here.
Thank you, Brad. I'm honored.
And when BJ did email exec, Adam's name was the one he put forward to be his replacement.
Adam, you want to, in case people don't know who you are, you want to just say what your position is? And
Yeah, I am the, yes, is that Micah?
yeah, it was Micah.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I was at one in person last year. I think we're at the Story County Conservation Building. Anyway, so I think I've met most of you. But anyway, Adam Shell, been with the department for my entire career. Started as an intern digitizing trail maps, believe it or not. Trail data for our state bike map. Had a few different positions, but been at the department for 18 years now. Currently the GIS program manager. There was a bit of a lull there after Eric Abrams left, but I have taken his position. Definitely more focused on the business side of things, trying to rearm on my technical side, but been working more and more with Patrick, trying to liaison with him with various things, activities going on statewide. As an agency, I mentioned before, we're working on a architecture refresh and review. We actually, thanks to Micah and whoever else helped plan, we did pursue a geospatial strategy with Esri. That lunch and learn you held, that actually turned into a significant effort. We're actually doing 28 workshops. Now I'm leading like 24 of them. So anyway, things are rolling there. And then also we we're a pretty federated agency. as far as staff, as I'm sure many of you are aware, but we are transitioning away from H&TB as our on-call consultant to Timmons Group, and that contract actually just recently got executed. So we're keeping busy over here at the DOT. So look forward to getting involved and engaged if I get approved. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam, for sharing. Side note, I'm very curious to see how your geospatial strategy goes. So that was one thing I picked up from the Manager Summit at this year's UC. Just look at doing that here at the city.
Yeah, that was actually, and that's something I was looking forward to talking to Patrick more about. We've had a little bit of conversation, but one question that came as a planner myself, transportation planner by trade and education, Iowa State grad, go Cyclones. One comment from a fellow planner was that, what are we doing to engage with external partners? Right now, it's kind of more of an internal strategy, but the collaboration type efforts and activities, we need to, we have our hub site or open data portal, but MPOs, RPAs, counties, there's a lot of opportunity there to make sure we've, interfacing with our LRS, things like that. So lots of ideas, just need to get organized around that. So yeah, happy to share what we learned from that experience.
Or at a workshop and have us show up.
Yeah, that might be on the list eventually. We'll yeah, takes time, but no, fair point.
Because selfishly, like I'm thinking about like editing Rams data as a city, and as counties, having a pipeline directly from us.
And
Okay, as
not to take-
secretary, guys, we're doing an election. I'm gonna be a Budinsky.
All right.
Well, oh, go ahead.
So with that, let's go ahead and vote on the state representative.
Are there any other nominations?
Are there any other nominations? Sorry.
You thought I was the stickler.
A little bit, and then it's like rein them back in.
All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead here and vote for Adam Shell to take the remainder of BJ's term, which will end at the end of this year end of whatever, June 30th of 2024. We have our normal next round of elections.
All right, I think we're good on that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Welcome aboard, Adam Shell. Looking forward to having you on board.
Thank you.
Stepping down to the treasurer's report, Josh.
Yes. Let me get this. All right. So you should see here these are all the transactions since the April meeting. The biggest thing is paid the site license for this next year. So the other items, for some reason, there's one section of the DOT that does not like to pay for ITAG through whatever services that there are and sends a check to us. So that's the 200 here and then the 200 going out to ICIT to put that in the correct pot. Other than that, the awards were taken out. Couple more of the schools on the site license. So our current balance is $29,214.70. Right there. Kind of roll that into the site license since it's all kind of together. Currently waiting on 3 schools still. 2 of those 3 are sending their checks within the next week. That would add another $5,700 plus dollars onto that. So we'd be just under $35,000 for once we get the rest of those site license checks in. Then between now and the next meeting, I will have taxes done. So then there'll be another, $350, $400, I think, out to do that. So, any questions on either treasurer or site license?
I have one.
Yes.
Have we seen yet the ITAG revenue for IGIC?
Well, we wouldn't for this year, and we did have last year's that came through before the last meeting.
So you're expecting none for this past conference?
No, it takes about 10 months or so before we see our amount come from
Oh, I see. It's that much lag time. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And why is that, Josh?
don't just because before Alyssa sends us the amount, she wants to try to get all things finalized before, so that there's nothing missed before. So it's all dependent on hotel and other items like that. So we
Okay.
actually had gotten the 2022 conference we had gotten in March. So yeah,
Okay.
it's about 9 to 10 months.
Gotcha.
And that was just over $7,500. So. All right. Any other questions? Okay.
You're up again, Josh. The site license.
No, that was all kind of
Okay, all included.
I kind of rolled it into both, and that's usually what happens.
Okay.
So.
All right, Robin. Your GIS faculty funding for the next 2 years.
Yes. So I'm presenting this on behalf of the ISU GIS facility. I had sent a letter to the board a few weeks ago with this same information, so you had some information and some read ahead. But I'll do a summary here for those folks who haven't seen this yet. And this is similar to, well, thank you. That actually helps a lot. The less I have to speak, the more happy I am. For those of you who have been on IGIC for a while, this is a recurring request that the facility makes. So this will not seem new to you, but for new folks, the GIS facility has been asking for support from IGIC for over a decade. That helps us keep the ortho server up to date and operational, both some staff time, but mostly for the hardware. We rent essentially some of the Ethernet from ISU, but we actually need to buy the hardware, the computers, the storage backup, and some of our time. And it helps us because we don't, the facility doesn't actually charge for use of the ortho server. And so having IGIC support there is very useful to us. It shows support for the statewide need of the imagery and the data on there. And this also covers, the funding also covers maintaining the on the IGIC website and the mail lists and now the Google groups that Josh has been working with. I increased the amount to 2,800 to cover some of our increased costs. I'm hoping that will be able to remain the same for the near future. I hope that you all agree that the services that we provide are useful, and we certainly appreciate the past support and hope that you all will agree to continue the support. And since it's pretty straightforward, I'm happy to answer questions, but I don't really have much else to say.
Well, before your request, I was just thinking, we have a lot of money. Well, I can't think of much better resources than making sure that this continues to be a vital part of the GIS resource, accessibility for information and data in the state.
Thank you.
I can't remember because it's starting to blur. Have we done a lunch and learn on the ortho server and all that you can see and use?
Not lately. And I actually talked to Greg about that at ITAG. I let him know that I thought now would be a really good time for him to start thinking about that, because he's put in so much new data on there recently, and he's actually planning for more updates. That I think it would be a very interesting lunch and learn for people just to see what's new, even if you're familiar with it, what it has been. It offers more now.
I would
So
agree.
if he hasn't reached out
I
to you,
will
and it
be
sounds like maybe he
reaching-
hasn't, I think you should definitely go after him.
He might have. I don't think he has, but I'll definitely, and I'll chase him down. I'll CC you so you can also.
I can't see attendance. Does that mean that Greg's not on the call right now?
I can't. I'm on a laptop, so I'm kind of minimal.
Yeah, mine is minimal.
I don't.
He hasn't
think
spoken
is.
up.
Okay. No, it'd
Okay.
be terrible to talk. He would.
I know.
Speak up. He's not
Talk
shy.
about him while he's here.
Yeah. So, okay. No, I just think that would be great. And, and it's also such a resource that we're helping support. So,
It all makes sense, doesn't it? You give, you
It
take.
does.
Mm-hmm.
I would make well, I can make a motion, can't I, as secretary?
Well, if you don't,
Yeah.
Micah, I will.
Okay. Who's
This is
who
Jeff.
said I? Yes. Make a motion, Jeff. I can type.
So I would make a motion that we provide support in the amount of $2,800 to the GIS facility to cover expenses for software and staff time for the ortho server support.
This is Anya, and I will second that motion.
Thank you, Anya. All in favor?
Aye.
And Adam, since you are now officially part of the board, you can vote.
Adam Shell.
Thank you for clarifying. You can call me Shell. That's fine too.
Yeah. There's two Adams now.
Yeah.
It's a big.
Who cares about Adam Skibby?
It's a big moment, Shell. First vote.
I have my big boy pants on. Thank you.
All right. Looks like the motion passes here.
Well, thank you all. I'm happy to hear that. And the facility will continue with our work, and also with coming up with a lunch and learn soon.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you all.
So jumping down to number 8 here, Amy, you want to talk about the K through 12 state licensing idea that you had?
Sure. So Debbie and I have been talking, Debbie Stevens and I have been talking about ways to get more involvement in the Iowa map contest. And although the ESRI like school license is free, sometimes there's kind of pushback against like having to manage the IT side of things. So we were thinking about maybe looking into getting some kind of more like state license, or like some kind of license, like something that teachers or schools wouldn't necessarily have to set up their own individual user. We haven't, we were going to talk to Charlie Fitzpatrick, who's the K-12 guy, but last week was the user conference, so things have been kind of busy. But we were looking towards the future, and we were thinking about doing that. We just thought we'd see what kind of support there was for it with IGIC, if that sounded like something we should pursue, or if anybody has any thoughts or comments or questions.
My thought would be, and I think this is what you were talking to Charlie about, is they already are able to get it free, but you think the holdup is setting up their own website.
Kind of the
their own
administrative
portal.
piece.
Okay. And so basically we would set up an administrator who would handle that and run everybody through it for that. Kind of like we did for site licenses for us. And by us, I mean the colleges, before we all got our own portal.
Yeah, something like that, or just seeing what's available. But some schools, they like having their own, you know, administrative stuff, but like I was trying to work with my son's school, and like I went to the IT people and they didn't want to touch it, because I mean, you know, it's like if you have all these like little things you have to manage, I think it's like, it's okay if your school's like, you know, 1,000 kids, but you know, when you have 10,000 kids and everybody's asking you for all these things, it can be a lot. Or I think that's what the problem was.
But isn't part of the problem that if they're going to, if they're going to get a site license other than what is available to them for free, the schools
Well, not
pay
like
something.
no, it would be
Okay.
for free. It would just be like seeing if there was another way to administer it, or
Okay.
like, you know, student from this school wouldn't have to have a teacher that's like, or IT person. If there was another way to like go about getting the students the access that they need to create the story map, like that's more the thing.
But I mean, you can set up automatic account creation and give it whatever privileges it needs, and then nobody really has to create anything.
Yeah, but you have the IT people that don't want to, at the schools that don't want to do that.
So are you thinking, Amy, that ESRI would somehow handle that, or that IGIC would have one person who would be that setup person and do the hopefully minimal administration that is needed?
I mean, probably the latter, but not, just kind of trying to see if we care enough about it to pursue it in any way, and then working with ESRI to see what they could do, and maybe they can't do anything, and so then it would fall back onto IGIC or something. But more like, this is an issue, and if we want to see more use, we might need to have this as an alternative to get it into some schools.
I mean, what's really at issue is the students having access to something more than just the free online account.
No, I mean, like, the thing is, a student can't set up like their own educational account.
Mhm.
Like, a teacher has to go online and like or an administrator of some sort from the school district has to set it up right now. And so
And right now,
kids
anything a student would,
can't get that access.
but we'd still need somebody from the school to interact, because if it does fall to IGIC, how do I know if Joe Schmo is actually at the school? I mean, there needs to be a teacher who says, oh yeah, these are the students who need access, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's different, like, having a teacher, like, that's, I don't know, like, supporting it versus, like, if there's, like, firewall issues or things like that, the IT people, like,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Google accounts only let students receive emails from like their teachers and other students. Like I mean, I can't even send my
Yeah.
son an email. So like trying to get him to get an account, like it just, he can't get the email from ESRI. So I don't know. It's
Yeah, and I think this is a problem bigger than what we deal with, because even if we set up a portal or something for them, the IT people will still have them firewalled. I mean, their IT people will still block stuff.
And I think, Amy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think where you're going is trying to still have each school individually will still have its own like ArcGIS Online organization. I don't think we're talking about setting up ArcGIS enterprise systems for
no.
these schools and that infrastructure. I think we're talking about ArcGIS Online, and there
Yeah.
is going to be some work from maybe some IT folks at the schools to allow those emails to come through. And I guess, is there somebody from Esri that you could sit down with that, and maybe people here know, obviously I don't sit on the education side, but I think we need to have a better understanding of what is the process for a K-12 school to get one of these free education licenses. And once they have it, what is on the school itself responsible for and what are the issues? And then from there, I think we could determine how IGIC might be able to help.
I mean, I do think Charlie is Fitzpatrick from Esri is the person to talk to, but I also feel like the answer is going to be, well, they can apply to get a portal, and that is the Esri solution for it. Trying to work with individual schools and their IT is going to be slightly problematic, in that I think IT people are going to be IT people. They're not going to want to deal with it. What will need to happen is that will need to be a responsible faculty or some other staff who's willing to be the administrator.
Well, I think
I think that's where we get turnover in schools.
Well, and you can have a couple administrators of a system. I think that's easy. I think if we write something up, and I don't, I sit under IT here, and I'm sure there's others that sit under IT, but maybe this is a time to work with ICIT as well. And if we can write something up for these IT folks at school, whether it's somebody that they paid to do their IT, whether it's somebody internally, and be like, if you do XYZ and lay it out in IT lingo, I think that's easier on them. I think part of the problem is them trying to figure out what they need to do, when if you can just present them with something that says, this is what you need to do. You need to go in and whitelist Esri.com emails so that this stuff can come through. Have whatever teachers are going to be doing the classes that are going to be having the students making the maps. You could have 6, 10, every teacher could be an administrator in the system if you wanted, and they're responsible for their own kids. So
it sounds more like we should try and maybe through a lunch and learn with teachers. And maybe, Amy, you've already done all of this and I'm just backfilling stuff you've already thought about. Because,
No,
for
no,
example,
we
in my
haven't done a
at
lunch and learn
Central,
with teachers.
my IT people have very little clue about GIS, and they don't really care that much, except for once a year I send them the here's how you install and this is what I need you to do, and then they do that and then they forget all about it again. So, but yeah, our emails aren't blocked, so that's a whole different story.
So are we trying to maybe be a resource? And like, if we
Yeah.
were to do some kind of a webinar with the recording capabilities we can at least have some kind of documentation that we could send to someone. If they, put something together and did, one webinar and it's recorded, then, many, many more people can view.
I'd really like the idea of a lunch and learn with teachers. And if that's something that you guys wanted to do, I think Charlie and his team could find a resource to support you in that.
And I think what would be interesting is because I know the teachers all have like planning, no, not planning time, IPD, no, program development time, whatever. If we could actually get into the AEAs and be the presenter for that period to talk about this is what GIS can do for you guys and this is how you can set it up. I mean, we could go to different school districts. Instead of them always hearing about, oh, look, this is the coolest newest phonics program that you should be thinking about. We could be the ones talking about something that they could actually use.
So one suggestion, I've helped 2 schools set up accounts and I've run into 2 problems. One is that it has to be somebody from the school. And then the other thing that's already mentioned is I think persistence of that resource within the school. And one thing I wanted to ask Amy, and I don't remember, but have you presented at, I think it's ITech, the Iowa Technology Education Conference?
Yeah, I've done stuff at both the IT one and the teachers one.
Okay. And so I think I really like the idea of IGIC maybe acting as a resource on how to set these up. And instead of, I would be really hesitant the amount of time involved in sort of managing. Plus, I think there's some privacy issues, looking at what it takes to actually volunteer at a school, having a background check and everything like that. And then also with any sort of direct interaction with students. And I'd also don't really want to put IGIC in a position that they might be liable for anything related to that. Not that, I ever imagined that anything, would happen, but it would just, that having interaction with students, especially K-12 students, opens us up for that. And so acting more of a resource of how schools can act, or how IGIC can act as a resource for schools and really targeting, maybe that's what IGIC can do is help sponsor, maybe it's a stay in a hotel to attend a conference if it's across the state, that sort of thing, for you or other IGIC board members or members to actually present at some of these conferences of best practices for starting this up. And then also those education resources of, how to get started looking at geography and data analytics and analysis and things like that using tools like, maybe it is ArcGIS Online, then maybe it's moving into other things as well, other tools that are out there, that whether that be ESRI or open source products, that sort of thing, and really focusing on developing some white papers in how to make those things successful for teachers, and actually looking from the standpoint of you or other people are those primary resources within IGIC in order to accomplish accomplish that goal rather than having direct contact with students. I just think that's opening up a door that's has some complications, I think, with it.
Yeah,
But
I
that's
wasn't
just my
even
2 cents.
thinking of that part, Patrick, so I appreciate you chiming in on that aspect of it. But
Yeah, because I was, in order to interact with that school, I had, I even had to be registered as a volunteer. And then not having, there's issues then of, if you cannot, unless you have a school, if you're an outside, I think one of the things within the ArcGIS Online for Education grant package, you have to have a school address in order to work that. So that first step might be whitelisting ESRI to that administrator. And that sort of thing. So like I couldn't even be registered on that site because I was not part of the school, even though I was volunteering.
and that's the other thing I think about. If the side of issue is potentially on the IT side, if we don't have the person within IGIC to help us outline what an IT person would have to know to do, this might be an opportunity to work with.
I'm not certain that it has to be an IT person because it is a SaaS product and it is over the internet. It's just whitelisting that. So I think it's a request through either an appropriate resource in the school, whether that be somebody who is a history teacher or a science teacher or somebody who's dedicated to do that, or even it could be a club. There are a lot of, like at my daughter's school and in the middle school, they have a technology club. That might be an appropriate way with that advisor, or it might be like like a gifted and talented advisor. Or it might be actually that a better place might be to look at a lot of school districts, at least the larger ones, have like science or curriculum coordinators. Those might be better places to hit up because then they can directly liaison with those IT folks. But the IT folks are not going to be, they're not going to be the people who are necessarily working directly with students. And I don't think those are the right people to target. I think it's to really target and go through and talk to the people who are doing the education component. And they make the request to IT.
Kind of what I think too.
This is not my area of expertise, but if a lunch and learn of some sort wants to be coordinated, please do reach out to me. We can make that happen.
Okay, well, I will maybe follow up with Charlie and Debbie and also kind of look into some of this and let you know what I find out.
Yep. Thanks, Amy. So anybody else have anything to add on that? Yeah. We'll jump to number 9 here, updates on committees and representatives. So I'll kick off here first of energizing committees. So back in our April IGIC meeting, there was some initial discussion of talking about doing some bylaws revisions and kind of starting to share that. I know Robin, you kind of chimed in as well of like, okay, trying to understand this since we just did some bylaw work. My goal or my challenge to especially all the board members, but anybody on this call is to think about joining one of our committees. I think it's a great way for everybody to kind of continue to step up and to lead, especially for board members to actually to help to give benefit back to this organization. For those who are unaware, we have 6 standing committees. We have a membership committee, which is chaired by the now Vice Chair Nicole Shippers. We have the Finance Committee, which is chaired by Josh, and that's dealing with all of things finance. Strategic Planning and Bylaws Committee, that is chaired by the past chair, which is Ben Wagner. Then there's the Conference Committee, which this year with ITAG will be led by the ICIT folks. However, we will still have to put together our GIS track and help out as well with that committee. We have the Education Committee, which, as you see here, the next agenda item, like Robin, Amy, Anya are leading, and have had continued discussions with. The last committee I haven't heard much out of this, at least in my 2 years of briefly being here in IGIC, is the Outreach Committee. But, collectively with all of this is, with the Strategic Planning and Bylaws Committee is having a conversation about, is this the right committees? Do we need to add some? Do we need to modify some? And conversely, what is our group, our board, anybody on this call, what are you passionate about? What do you want to lead? What is your passion within tangentially of GIS that you want to help to grow and foster or be a resource for all of our members, those who are on this call today and those who are not here. So that is, I'm not expecting an answer today, or if anybody has thoughts, I'm more than happy to listen, to share. But be thinking through of what do you want to see, what do you want to be a part of here as we continue to grow out this next year. So
I will add a couple things. I will say that the Finance Committee, in my 10 plus years as treasurer, there's never been a Finance Committee. I am free to start that back up again, to kind of look at what we can do with our money. I know Jeff has, at ITAG brought up some stuff on how we can maybe spearhead some projects. And so I would believe that that kind of would kind of fold into that committee to kind of look into those things. The Outreach Committee kind of turned in, or at least was partially the website communication committee. That's where that one was at. And just to piggyback on another thing on what Greg had said, if you're not a board member and want to be part of a committee, absolutely you can. So you don't have to be just a board member. It could be anybody that's part of the group. That's all.
Unless anybody else has anything else to say, we'll step down to the Education Committee here. Yeah, board members, give it some thought. For everybody else, happy to hear. Please reach out. You're able to reach out to me. You're able to email me. I'm happy to hop on virtual calls if you'd like. And if you're uncomfortable sharing in this group setting, my door is truly always open. I will listen and engage and try to find a best path forward for us all. So.
And I would remind that we have money. Sometimes it takes the money to do a meeting or to do something. So those are resources that we can, there's like a procedure, but we've got money.
And I know, Jeff Miller mentioned at ITAG of having, like a section corner project, and maybe that might be something we partner with the state or with IDOT too, and say, hey, let's do a statewide, process to get all our section corners done for all of the counties. That's a city problem, that's a county problem, that's a state problem. Let's all work together and make it so. And if we're the body to help to energize it, more power to us.
I think for education, why don't you go first, Amy, and then I'll follow up.
Sure. So last week, we held a geospatial technology in the classroom workshop at Iowa State. We had 5 teachers come, middle school and high school, math, science, and social studies teachers, both veteran teachers as well as a teacher that's going to be starting in his first year. And we kind of went over story maps, geo inquiries was another big one, kind of survey 1, 2, 3, going outside and kind of collecting data through both survey 1, 2, 3 and apps, and then just a lot of resources that we could use. And we did mention IGIC, and we also mentioned the IGIC mini grants as a potential for, like, one. When we were talking to the teachers, several of them said that, you know, they have Chromebooks, and Chromebooks have like a trackpad, or they've got the little built-in mouse on the computer, but it's so much easier to use a real mouse. And so one of the teachers said she had used, or she had gotten some money to get mice for all the students to use, because it was just so much easier to do GIS with a mouse. So I said, well, you know, if you need something like that, you can always apply for an IGIC mini grant and see what happens. I mean, because it's not, you know, a classroom of mice isn't that expensive, and it's something that um, uh, you know, it would be helping out a school. So that was kind of
in the classroom.
Yeah, I would say if you're really trying to get mice for people, talk to county IT folks, because we tend to have boxes of them because they come with every single computer, but everybody has their own preferred mouse that they like. So you just end up with piles and piles of mice. So I would say if that's something that you were looking into, I would just start reaching out to some county IT folks, and they might be willing to just donate boxes of these things to get rid of them.
that's good to know. I'll let
So
them know that, but also, like, they were interested specifically in wireless mice, but anyway.
So Amy, I just had another thought, and this is really related both to the education committee, but also to geospatial technologies in the classroom. But one of the things that would be nice, and I think anybody can apply to do this, but it would be nice to get an IGIC board member on the Iowa STEM Council. And I think it's just an application. But that might be, if you haven't seen this site, the STEM Council was basically just transferred from University of Northern Iowa to the Department of Education, with the government restructuring recently, I believe. And so that might be an outlet or something to look at, you know, just at that website, in how to look at how geospatial tools and analytics might fit into things that the STEM Council is promoting. But also, you know, I think it would be an interesting challenge to see if we could get a member on that board that would represent, obviously, something that's very STEM related.
Yeah, that sounds great, Patrick. I have been to some like the governor's STEM group a couple of years ago, but nothing, not an official member or anything like that. So, and especially with this new restructuring, that would be something good to look
And
at.
I think it just is I think at those positions, I think they're nominated by the governor, but also I think they're open. In the past, they've been open to anybody to apply for any of the boards at the state level. And I think they've had issues trying to find enough people to fill these boards. So I think it's worth a shot. So.
Yeah,
This would be a great spot for IGIC to plug into.
I agree. I was going to say you're taking note of that, right, Greg?
Yes. All right. Now that the education committee is done, Nicole, I
I'll
take
actually
venue
add
one.
something to that, Greg.
Sorry. Go ahead,
It's
Robin.
okay. I've been we've sort of had the an official split of the education committee, part of it being the K-12 outreach and probably undergrad side, and then also the internal to IGIC education, the membership education piece, which I was more focused on. I think with the goal of with energizing committees, it would be good to have someone new who wants to be on the education committee to take over that role for me. I'm finding I have less time to focus on that. Just my workload has changed. And I think it would benefit IGIC if there were someone who would volunteer to do that. Related to that workload, I plan on retiring at the end of this year, December 31st. And I figure it's just good to let you all know now rather than send that in an email. And that is influencing my decision somewhat, but also I know that it's just a good thing to do, even if I were not retiring. So I don't have any specific education efforts going on right now for staff or for the membership. So it isn't like someone would have to jump in and do something right away, but I think people should think about it. Thanks, Jeff.
I think one
I
thing
don't-
that might be interesting for sort of energizing is they have the annual Iowa Academy of Sciences meeting. And I think we should try and maybe get people to have GIS be a category there and have students report on research projects they're doing there. Because I think right now there's a lot of undergraduates who will present in biology and chemistry and physics and all that kind of stuff. But there isn't a really good venue for GIS. And I know there's our annual meeting, but that's usually done when the semester is done and my students are gone. But maybe we could talk to the Iowa Academy of Sciences and see if we could, move that poster presentation that we used to have for students to that and have that be a venue. And that way universities could send students there.
Does that move around the state? Or is it always?
I think it does again now. It used to be in Des Moines a lot. Now it's moving again.
That isn't something that I know I don't believe our faculty know about here at Iowa State as an opportunity to send students to. But if we could support that in any way, I mean, having the GIS track made sense, but also if the students are willing to present, but they need perhaps hotel fee or a car rental or pay for gas, whatever, even if it's a short note and that we treat like a very small scholarship, I think that might be a win-win for the students and for the other attendees.
I think that would be interesting.
When does it happen?
It usually happens like March, April.
The
Okay.
next
Early
meeting
April.
is April 21st and 22nd at UNI.
So we have some time to plan. That's good.
And I can message Greg Johnson, who's in charge of the Iowa Academy of Sciences, and try and establish that link. The other thing that I think would be interesting for my students would be if we had maybe short videos from IGIC members about what their GIS jobs were like. Because I think the other problem that my students have is that, as that externship website just pointed out, is they're like, when are we ever going to use this in real life? They think GIS is interesting, they think it's fun, but it doesn't have to do with, I'm going to be a biologist or I'm going to go be a historian. I keep trying to tell them, but this is how you can apply it. And they're like, yeah, but no, none of my history professors use it, so therefore it's useless. If we could actually have GIS professionals who work in GIS talk about the kind of jobs and the kind of stuff that they do and make it sound interesting, that might actually get more people working towards that.
We have to make it sound interesting.
Yes, you do.
It's
Fabulous.
key. Every day is new and exciting.
It's so funny to hear you, Anya, because I keep telling my kids, like they want to major in social science. I'm like, yeah, do that. Also get a GIS certificate so you're employable. Oh, it's funny to hear you. It's like, oh yeah, I believe in that.
I mean, I keep going around with like our historians because they're like, oh yeah, I study Civil War battles. I'm like, we can map all of that. And he's like, yeah, one of these days we'll get to it. And I'm like, I've been having this discussion with you for like the decade now. So.
And I specifically with history, I met the teacher that teaches pre-service social studies teachers, and I'm going to go into their classroom in the spring when they teach and just do some GIS outreach for the pre-service teachers, because I think that's an important way to get it, like before they get really into teaching, be able to have them drink the Kool-Aid.
I look back at like in 2022's ITAG, like what was it, Jade Allen, presenting on her research from the college. Like those are the short, 2-minute videos where it's GIS adjacent, like a wetland person or a biologist or a historian. Like these are the stories that us as a group kind of need to go find the people that are doing that where it's GIS adjacent. And to Micah's point is having that GIS certificate, and maybe this is the formation, the thoughts of like the outreach committee. Maybe it goes in this direction, and I think this is a lot more in the private space and less so in the cities and the counties and the state, because our jobs are sometimes not as exciting.
Yeah, but you guys also love your jobs and you guys do interesting stuff. And I think still it's worth having, county GIS people talk about the stuff that they do, because I don't think our students have a clue.
Well, and I think maybe one of the things that city and county people need to think about in terms of this conversation is we work on a lot of projects that aren't, the GIS infrastructure administration project. We work with conservation to do campground mapping and the naturalists and trail mapping. And then, cities, you work on sidewalks and improvement projects and all kinds of other things that would fall under potentially different departments if they had a GIS person in that department. So I think if we think about it from that aspect and ignore kind of the core GIS infrastructure administrator, create new things, and think about what are the projects we work on with other departments and go from that side of it.
I do know Dave Kroll has shadowed a high school student, and my door is open as well. Like if there's people that are interested in learning GIS, I'm sure many of us would be happy to have them come sit with us for some hours or have that opportunity. And
Maybe one of those lunch and learn sessions could be IGIC professionals talking about their jobs, and we could just stream that to classes.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I've been thinking this is actually something Brad and I have been talking about for quite a long time. And I think it's lunch and learn adjacent because I think the format's shorter and mobile. But yeah, I mean, it's just, this is where the video's at, right? Like how people are using stuff. I think that's the interesting part because we don't all know what we're really doing in our jobs. So when you describe them, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes this sounds kind of boring, but I think there's ways to jazz that up because what we do is really interesting,
Yeah, but if you pick a project that you're working on right now and the impact that it's having.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I think, the way to jazz it up. Here's what I've done and look at what it's impacted.
And Anya, this is Nicole in Marion County here. I mean, feel free to reach out to me and we can always work something out, and I'd be happy to come in and talk with students and stuff. And I can talk to other GIS folks, my users here at the county, and we might be able to get a couple folks. I know some guys at the city of Pella and everything too, to come in and kind of do a little session. So
sure.
before I forget, congrats, Robin, on your future retirement here at the end of the year. Is there anything else for the education committee?
Not for me.
No, I'm good.
All right, thanks, Robin. Thanks, Amy. So now jumping down to Nicole, talking about the ITAG venue.
So, as most of you know, I don't know, a year ago, time is a blur. There were some large discussions on the future of ITAG. So the current ITAG contract with the Sheraton ends in 2024. So IGIC and ICIT each put forth 3 members to be on this committee to look into the future of ITAG. So I kind of headed up this committee from IGIC. Greg and Amy were both on there with me. So recently at ITAG, we presented a 72-page document to the executive members of both organizations. But the first thing I really want to clear up, because there's been a lot of discussions and questions, is ITAG is continuing past 2024. If anybody was questioning that, it will exist 2025 and beyond as the joint conference we all know. The big question at this point is the location of ITAG. So we set forth, none of us have ever planned a conference before, so it was a wild adventure for the first couple months. And we set out requirements for a location. I think, as we all kind of felt this year at ITAG, the Sheraton is getting a little small. Some of the breakout rooms are especially small. I know some of the vendors aren't exactly happy with how cramped they get in there. So we, based on the square footage of conference space and all of that, keeping it within central Iowa, kind of the Des Moines metro area, we initially identified 5 locations. 2 were immediately eliminated by both boards because they're downtown locations. and the parking and everything would be rough. And we just couldn't justify asking people to come to a conference and spend a ton of money on parking. So those were eliminated. So it came down to 3 locations. A decision has not been made yet. I suspect we will know by mid-August where that location is going to be.
So with this, we are having both exec teams met together or met separately with the contract committee, and our ask from the planning committee to each exec board is to have the chair of the board be authorized to sign a new contract for 3 years to continue ITAG at a location. We have tentatively set a date of in early August to have that meeting to go through final contract negotiations with the location. And so the big ask I have is I want the IGIC board to authorize me if we need to sign that contract on behalf of IGIC.
And I just want to chime in, that's not new. For those that don't know, the chair of both IGIC and ICIT have to sign the contract. That's how the current contract works. That has to be done. What we're going to face is a timing, right? So this committee's been around for a while. We've been negotiating with these locations. We'll have to sign soon, or we will lose the location that we potentially want, and we could lose out on rates that I think we did pretty good at locking in, and that could all change. They'll only hold spots for us for so long. So I just, in case anybody's questioning why Greg is asking to give him permission to sign, that's not new. The chair is going to have to sign that contract. That's whose name gets put on it.
So do we just need to do like a motion to authorize Greg, or is it just assumed because that's what's been done in the past, do you think?
I think it would be good to do a motion so that we have on record that we gave him permission to sign. I just wanted people to know that he has to sign and we have to give him permission at some point. So.
And the challenge with any contract, these are contracts that are locking ITAG and ITAG whole, but IGIC and ICIT would be contractually obligated to basically pay out in case we don't have a conference, which is unlikely now to occur because we both execs are fully vested in pushing ITAG forward. So we just keep going and keep making a great conference for folks to attend. Both exec teams are very excited about the opportunities of these with our basically one vendor, and we're hopeful that we'll have a better conference because of the conversations we are having with this. So with that, I will entertain a motion to allow me to sign a contract on behalf of IGIC for 25 through 27 for the ITAG conference.
So moved. This
Who
is
said
Jeff.
that?
This is Jeff.
Okay.
Seconded by Anya.
All right. Yeah, use the chat window for aye or nay.
Hey, this is Jamie Peterson from Pot County. This is just a comment more so than anything. The you know, the long-term success of ITAG, you know, says it's committed. However, I would just add that make sure everybody knows the reason why there was such a discussion about it in the first place is that ICIT has both GIS and IT. And we had our own conference for a long time. And the sentiment was that we could go back to doing our own conference without IGIC, keep all the revenue for the conference, invite the same people that come, but it's our conference. And, you know, IGIC had our own conference too prior to us coming together. And so I guess I just caution everybody to say that that partnership is, I wouldn't say that it's very solid. I'd say that as long as there is ICIT on its side that can do its own conference, there could be ICIT action that would, you know, potentially not sign a contract, go back to doing our own conference, and put IGIC in a tough situation. So I guess I just wanted to highlight that for people that might not know that situation or might not understand the implications of what that would mean to IGIC as a group, going back to the old conference method and the revenues that brought and the difficulty of doing that, because the ICIT conference could go on and get all the same vendors that are going there for both IT and GIS. And then we're competing for vendors at conferences. And I guess I just wanted to share that. I do, in the best interest of GIS, it's ITAG is the best and it's the most important. From the standpoint of an ICIT member, you can make a case that in the best interest of ICIT, keeping that conference by our own and keeping that money is more beneficial. And that argument has been made in the past, and that's why it kind of came up as an issue, whether or not this contract would be signed or not. And, you know, I don't know that those things have gone away, despite, you know, sounds like we will sign a contract. But that's just food for thought. I don't know if anybody has anything else to add to that.
I'm just gonna chime in, Jamie. There's no expectation first that Greg is going to sign without ICIT signing. They would both be signing at the same time. So I don't want anybody to have the impression that IGIC is going to sign without ICIT. And ICIT has full intentions of signing and continuing forward with this. I don't think anybody else on the contract or executive committees here have had any impression contrary to that.
I'm on the ICIT executive board and I've been on it for about 8 years. And so I can tell you that that's not exactly accurate. And no, I know that if there's a deal to be done, that it'll be signed together. I'm not really worried about that. But I'm just saying that the potential exists there for ICIT at any time to say we're not signing that contract. Instead, we're going to sign a contract that's very similar, but it's just us. And that was the potential that was on the board, you know, and that came up for a vote. That wasn't like something that was dismissed as a silly idea. So I guess there, from an internal perspective, from the ICIT, I don't think that that's the case, but I also just want to, you know, for the information of the group, that contract will end and then that discussion will happen again. So,
well, this contract, this new one, will be signed within the next couple months. And Travis, I think you're here on the call with me too. And you were at the meeting at ITAG, which I know you couldn't be at that meeting, Jamie, but everybody that was in the ICIT exec meeting that Greg and I had presented to were all in favor of this and going forward and signing. And the general assumption was because this committee was stood up, that was ICIT showing their commitment to ITAG moving forward.
I would just comment that it's a commitment for whatever long the contract is. And then after that, I would anticipate the discussion happening again. The board could change, people's feelings can change, the contract will end, and then we'll be kind of right back where we were this past year. And I'm not predicting anything. I'm just
That's the nature of
highlighting that.
contracts.
Right.
Yeah.
This contract would be for 3 years. So
So yeah, so this will come back up in 3 years. I mean, I guess I'm just not saying that ITAG is solidified going forward. I say that it's solidified for 3 years, which is good. I mean, I'm not saying that's bad, but I think that's relevant information, that it's not a given that this conference happens, that it's comes up by contract and then is voted on by, you know, 2 boards, and that it's not a given that it continues going forward. I agree that the current sentiment is that it is worthy of the contract, but I don't think there's anything guaranteed there after this contract.
you could say that about any contract in any conference. And I think the decision on a conference continuing or not, whether it's ITAG or any conference in question, is the success of the conference, which requires people to attend, which requires people to volunteer to do presentations and be part of it. It requires, there's a large group of people behind the scenes that make ITAG happen, and we need more people to step up and want to do that and want to help. If you look at the list of committee members for this conference through the history, it's a lot of the same people that are doing it. And just like we have changes in our executive board right now, we need to see that go through with ITAG. If people want ITAG to be successful and really continue and solidify itself in the realm of Iowa and the GIS and IT community, then people have to step forward and help make it happen. Like doing this contract work, you know, Greg and Amy, you're on the call here with me, was a ton of work. And we invested a lot of time to go into this. And there's a lot of people that invest time into ITAG. And we need more people to do that, to show that they want ITAG to continue. So you're right. There's no absolute guarantee. The guarantee would be for 3 years. But if you want to make a future guarantee, then we need more people to step up and be proactive and be involved. And that's how you make a guarantee that ITAG continues.
I've been listening. This is Travis. I've been part of this ever since it started, and I will say that this all started because 3 or 4 people had an opinion. And maybe they didn't want to continue, but they are 3 or 4 people out of 100 plus. In my opinion, this has been squashed. I don't think that based on the majority vote that we will not ever have an ITAG together. And if so, then that's something to be passed on 3 or 4 years down the road. But we also have to keep and put some of this to bed and stop having these conversations to move forward. We're living in some place that doesn't exist anymore, personally.
I'm ready to move on.
All right. Thanks, Travis. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Nicole, for sharing. Stepping forward here, 911 Council Liaison. So I know, Lawrence, I think you're on, right?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay. Is there any update from you?
So I had a couple people reach me privately with a desire or a willingness to be that liaison. I forwarded those names on to the 911 oh, what's his name? It's Blake DeRouchi, I forget his title, but he's the 911 person for the state. So it's kind of in their court now. Just kind of waiting for them to reach out to those people that I gave them, and then that they would decide or talk to them, mutually agree to have them take my place on the 911 board.
Okay. So I guess I missed letting you know, Lawrence. I did also have a conversation. Ben Wagner and I also had a conversation with Blake and DeLarucci and John Paoli.
Yeah.
With both of them to also have a conversation. And Josh, can you flip to the 911 liaison item I put together? So I kind of put together a little.
Yeah, give me a second to find that.
No worries. So I kind of put together a little brief, page and a half to the board here of kind of what the 911 council liaison was, just as a proposed idea to help to blend the conversation that you had shared, Lawrence, in April, and what Blake and John had shared with us as well, but also to kind of give some clarity. The challenge that we have going on at the state level is that there is restructuring going on, and including rewriting of state code. The 911 liaison position is written in that the board of IGIC selects the person and then they sit in that spot. And they have some specific requirements, and that's basically just outlined on the position, just so they are aware of what is currently available. Lawrence has been in the position since the beginning. And as Lawrence mentioned in April, it's only a couple hours a month. You have a meeting with, correct me if I'm wrong, Lawrence, with Geocom and with one other thing. So this is kind of what I kind of
the 911 with the state 911 office.
Yep. So kind of the thing here is like, okay, some roles and responsibilities of this position, some requirements. We just said just be a member of our group, and 3+ years of experience with GIS, and actively kind of working in 911, next gen 911 data, and that you are cognizant that you're working in front of public safety folks about GIS and 911. So this is just basically what I pulled straight out of Iowa code to kind of frame in my own head to track this. My internal goal here this year is to kind of make a lot of these for all the different positions, so that as we have leadership transitions occur within our organization, that we have a starting point for people to be aware of what has been done, or what are the kind of the key things for them. So with this being said, does anybody have any questions?
I do have one question. I really like this document, and I'm going to be asking you to send it to me so I can include it, by the way, Greg, in the minutes. I did wonder, and this kind of came up when we were having that informal, or the 911 roundtable at ITAG. I did kind of wonder if, I go both ways, but I do wonder about the requirements of being, in this case, maybe a public entity, public employee. My name got thrown around because I do internal editing for a lot of counties now, but I work for a private organization, and it's when push came to shove, I would serve the master that pays my paycheck, probably. And so I do kind of wonder, I don't know if I could probably be convinced one way or another, but I would just throw that out there, just because this organization already has like Geocom and like private entities. And so I think one of the things that's strong about this voice is people who are like, besides doing 911 editing, generally, doing it in the trenches as a public employee. So.
I mean, I would generally agree with that. I trust you, Micah. I think you're generally a good person, but that's not to say in the future, if we put this document into play, that a problem wouldn't arise.
And it may not be that important. It may be more important that it just has the approval of IGIC. And, you could always say, no, we don't think that's who we want representing us. So maybe restricting it too tight, maybe okay. Like I said, I could argue my way out of a paper bag with this, but I would just kind of throw that out there. At least when I would look for a person, I would be looking for a public employee.
So Blake, when Ben and I met with Blake and John in a brief 20-minute talk, all four of us were in agreement that IGIC as a whole is the nominating body to this position with conversations with them. But it is up to IGIC's board who selects that liaison. And that's actually how it's written in state code as well right now. And so I see both sides of the public versus private, Micah, and it's just that it's whatever works with the board. I don't want to be overly restrictive here. I
Yeah.
thought the 3 years of both were already enough because it still has to come through our board. So, like for you, yeah, I mean, you've done it before in the past and you're continuing to do it. Like, I don't see an issue, personally. So, any other
Do
comment?
we have names that have spoken up for wanting this?
I have received one name, and I don't know, Lawrence, if you're willing to share the people.
Sure. Let me see if I can find an email. I remember I totally forgot. I remember it was Greene County and if he's on the call, I'm sorry because I know him forever. But Micah. Not you, Micah, the other Micah.
I know the one of them is Sarah Haverl with Carroll County.
Yeah, that's it. Sarah and then Micah, forget his last name.
Brad Monin?
Yeah.
Micah's not a GIS person.
Oh, wait. That's what I thought too, but
He's an IT director. He has a GIS person under him.
What county is in again?
Wait, hold on. It may sort be the one, but let me see here.
Well, for what it's worth, this is Jeff in Dubuque. I would be willing to do that if necessary.
Yeah.
I know I haven't talked to you before about this necessarily, Lawrence, or Greg, but
Okay, Jeff. Is there anybody else that would be interested in this as well? That is here on the call?
Yeah, look at my emails. Only one I see is Sarah. I know there was another one, but anyway.
Sarah, were you able to reconnect via your cell phone? Are you on the call?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So I think I mean, right now, I mean, we could pivot today if we would like to. We can basically run with this proposed document here, and we have Jeff and Sarah that are both willing to be in the position. Is there any discussion?
Have we formally sent out a request of anybody who'd be interested in putting their name forward? Because, you know, we have a good representation here, but it is, you know, someone might be on vacation and can't make this meeting or something. And I'm not sure I can't remember what I've seen.
I think we talked about it in the last meeting and people could send emails.
At the spring meeting?
So in
Yeah.
the spring meeting, Lawrence talked about the position and then mentioned if anybody was interested, they would reach out to him. So, I mean, we can table making the change of the liaison to our October meeting, or we can make the change today. I'll let the board here make that decision.
Okay, I'm sorry, I got the other name now. The other name was Corey Hines. I don't know why I thought it was Micah. Sorry, Corey.
Has to be one
I mean,
Yeah.
if we're doing
if you're young, not enough.
changes today, like in terms of we've done, I just feel like if we set a precedent for doing it in the October meeting, we're splitting a lot of voting on different positions throughout the year. And I feel like it should kind of all be done at a similar time frame. That's just my personal opinion, and I would do it today, but.
Hey, Greg, this is Joey from Sioux County. Hey, is there anything that says that this GIS liaison has to be just one person? Can it be two?
Oh,
It
I
is
believe it's
just one.
just one.
It would just be one.
But that's a monster of our creation, right? We can amend that and make it two people.
No, this is
No,
a
this
monster of
is-
state creation.
Yes.
So we can, this is why I'm proposing of energizing it like a 911 committee where we can have multiple people doing it, but there's one face. Do you have another person in mind, Joey? Anything else? You can just nod your head.
No, I'm good. That was just a question we had.
All right. So I guess, I guess in the chat window, put in aye or nay if you want to have a vote today. Aye if you want to have a vote today on the GIS liaison position. Nay if you do not. Okay. That's already dominant enough. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Well, that's 12 there. That's quorum. So with this before us here, we have this document and this kind of pro forma, I believe. Well, I know Sarah Habrel and Jeff Miller both meet the requirements. I'm not familiar with Corey Hines, but I'm assuming so. Yeah, he's with Cedar Rapids. So we
Cedar
have
Falls.
Cedar Falls, excuse me. There's too many cedars around the state, jokingly. So with this, you know, we can vote on which one we want. I know there's no Corey Hines is not on this call currently. So I mean, the other two can say something if they would like.
So, not saying I'm better than Jeff Miller or anything. So, Jeff, please don't think that, okay? I've been working with a group with Blake Durauchi and the state GIS for a little while now, and we actually had a meeting with John Paoli and stuff. So, I've been pretty active in it already-ish. Not saying Jeff hasn't. So, I just wanted to toot my own horn a little bit, Jeff.
I just add that you are all three great nominees. I've worked with all of you a lot and think you'd all be really good in that role.
And so we do know that Corey does 911 GIS, right? Somebody here is able to confirm that. I don't know.
Corey's been involved with first responding. He was a policeman or a reserve. That was the qualifications he gave me.
Which is fair, but there's a lot of people in that committee that can talk about that. We need somebody who can specifically talk about GIS. So that's my question. Does he do GIS, and does he do GIS specific to the 911 requirements?
He's been in GIS for a long time.
Yeah, no, he was at the city of Cedar Falls for a long time. I mean, 8 years, and then he went into the private sector, and then he's back. Does Cedar Falls have its own PSAP?
I'm trying to look at the master PSAP list right now.
My guess is it does, but I can't confirm that.
This is Ben Wagner. I'm with, I don't deal with the 911 stuff for Waterloo outside of sending our addressing information off to the county. But Corey is right next door. He's the GIS coordinator for City of Cedar Falls. Yeah, he's been in GIS for quite a long time, and I know he works quite heavily with Blackhawk County dispatch on 911 issues. To what extent, I'm not sure, because I personally am not in those meetings, but I know he is quite active with them.
Corey's been doing GIS for a really long time. I don't have any issues with him. I would say he's qualified just as much as Sarah or anybody else.
Okay. So I guess Jeff, do you want to say anything?
Sure. Yeah, I've been doing this, I guess, since the beginning. I know Lawrence and I were on the standards committee and whatever work groups since then. So I guess that's enough for me to say about this. Thanks.
Yeah. So for the board members here, use the chat window here and vote for either Sarah, Jeff, or Corey. One, two, three, four, five, six. So correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but it looks like Jeff Miller will be our 911 liaison.
I think so. There's a couple people that didn't vote, but I think, yeah, I think.
Yeah, there's one more. All right. Okay. Jeff Miller, you will be our 911 council liaison. I'll send an email to you and to Lawrence here and to Blake as well, and I'll let you guys kind of lead that transition here.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Josh, can you send me the count?
Yeah, I'll make sure that the
Later.
chat's printed out. Yep.
Yep, yeah, and I'll count them. Okay, thanks.
So jumping anything else? Otherwise, we got 10 minutes here. I'll try to wrap us up here on time here. Patrick, do you have anything for the state of Iowa activities?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, we're just working on broadband. I think everybody saw, at least from my office, working on broadband. We got $150 or $415 million for BEAD, which will be looking at that grant process over the next several months and apply and actually doing our final application so that we can allocate that money to providers across the state at some point. And we just opened up on Friday $150 million grant for broadband across the state as well. I think the big thing related to activities related to that is some of those efforts in order to maintain transparency in that is we have taken the next gen 911 data and repurposed that in a way to make that in an attempt over the last year and then going forward to make that a rooftop data set to meet business needs within state government of a rooftop data set rather than just a routing data set, which is much more how the next gen 911 data business need is. And so there's kind of two simultaneous data sets in the state for addresses. At some point, we will be looking further at that. We do have some counties where we know just from feedback through our map, we have a map validation process. Every time we have a grant coming in or a grant that's available, we publish a broadband map, and at that same time we do have a map validation process. And so we have gotten feedback about missing locations, incorrectly placed locations, which we know some of those missing addresses and things like that. We'll be continuing those efforts this next year to try to make that data set better. So we may be reaching out to counties in order to get some better data. I know there's different routes on how that 911 data comes into the state, which may or may not be through the GIS people. So we may be reaching out in that regard to update that data, make it as good as possible. That data will be available with added information to it regarding residential. We are identifying community anchor institutions in that data set and a number of other things that fulfill needs for broadband purposes. The only other couple things that are going on is from a LiDAR perspective, we've had a meeting over the last year, about every other month on average, to look at cut line features and other features that could be used in surface modeling and how to create a repository of those. We will be looking at updating our LiDAR plan. That does not mean we're going to be getting a refresh of LiDAR yet, but one of the things I do in my capacity is represent NISGIC on the 3DEP working group or the 3DEP committee for NISGIC. And through those efforts, we are looking at how to maintain state LiDAR plans and that sort of thing. So one of the goals over the next year will be to do a refresh of those LiDAR, of our statewide LiDAR plan, which hopefully will include things like LiDAR classification and hopefully extending or getting that plan together so that if we do have the opportunity to acquire additional LiDAR, we do have the possibility of getting a higher resolution point cloud. We are at QL2 right now. I think other states have moved to QL1 or QL0. But hopefully having the opportunity ahead of time notification of those opportunities in an acquisition so that counties or cities might be able to buy into that product or buy additional things. There are some mechanisms in place that we can actually do that now. And Adam. I knew I was going to do that because I just saw Eric last week. is we do, along with other several state agencies, have a working group every month, or on average probably every other month, to talk about things that are going on in state agencies and coordinating things. And so Adam and I have been talking, a little bit about the geodetic control stuff, and moving forward with that within. Lawrence and I had talked to DOT several years ago about allowing updates of monumentation in that survey application. And so I know Adam has been talking internally a little bit about that, and a couple other things. If anybody ever has any questions about, Casey and I are maintaining geodata.iowa.gov. If there is a county that wants to, or a city for that matter, or any other entity that wants to put data on there or collaborate on data, let me know. A lot of my time is freed up just having another person on the GIS team at the state in my office to actually start looking at some of those things again. So that's all I have.
I have an update to something you said, Patrick.
Yes.
Regarding the statewide cuts information.
Yes.
The GIS facility has received a statewide cuts data set from Calvin Walter, working with the Flood Center of vector line data that our cuts generated, both by him and his staff, and something in relation to the DOT. I don't know those specific details, that we have published as a feature service. We just got the updated the entire state this week. I was just thinking about how we're going to advertise that, and I think we'll have the information on the ISU DEM download page, since the cuts would normally be used with a elevation data set. They are, Calvin said, all created off the 2010 data, not the 2020 data.
Mm-hmm.
But similar, in many places, the elevation hasn't really changed enough that might affect the usefulness of that data.
Right.
However, I also know that we would be happy to have other data sets that might enhance that. And I had on my list to talk to someone from DOT. So, Shell, I think I'll be talking to you as a start. If there's something we can do, I just want people to know that because of another project we're working on, the ACPF toolbox, that cuts data helps that process greatly, and I imagine it will help others also.
Yeah, keep me posted, Robin. Wasn't it some of the structure feature services you were looking at? Remind me
Potentially, yeah. I'll send you something over email. Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Alrighty.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also, shout out to Patrick for winning a Special Achievement GS Award at the UC last week. Micah, lunch and learn topics.
The usual spiel. If you have ideas, send them to me. We'll be starting the Lunch and Learn webinar series again on August 16th. So mark your calendars. Be looking for some information from me.
Sweet. Other project conferences. Anything else there? Ben, your Eastern Iowa.
Yep, Eastern Iowa Regional User Group is November 15th. We've got the Wiki Uphill Outdoor Learning Center in rural Toddville reserved. So keep an eye out. I'll be putting together a call for agenda items, presentations here probably in the next week or so. I'll get that out. But yeah, that's coming up on November 15th.
Anybody else have anything to share on other projects, conferences? regional user groups? Hearing none. So thanks all for attending today. We're just a couple minutes over. I just want to kind of some last thoughts I want to remark of, we are a great organization here as the leading professional GIS organization here at the state. We have had and will continue to have great members here within our group, both who are actually on the call today and who also do great work throughout the state. And in my eyes, and kind of where I'm trying to move towards is, this organization is kind of trying to refine its feet. It was a legislative body, now becoming more of a professional organization. And, over this course of the next year, we will be kind of more introspective. And I encourage you all to feel comfortable to share your thoughts as we go through this process. And a lot of this will be led by our strategic visiting and bylaw committee as well. So without further ado, without keeping this short and sweet, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Or your comments.
This is Ben. I'll motion to adjourn.
This is Jeff. I'll second that.
All right. Well, thanks, folks, for running just a couple minutes here. Welcome, Jeff, to the non liaison. Welcome, Adam, to the board. Nicole to vice chair, and Anya to secretary, and Josh, continue the work. So thanks all. Have a great day. Keep doing good stuff out there.
Need a voice vote for the adjournment.
Oh, yeah.
Or just leave.
Or just leave.
Or just leave.
Yeah.
Second, that was Jeff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Micah, did you want me to stay on to talk to me, or is this something we do later?
Micah just chatter and it's getting wonky.
We will do that later. I need to go eat. I'm on. Yeah. So anyway, I will be reaching out to you, Anya, for sure.
Okay.
Oh, seems like everybody's hopping off, so that's a unanimous aye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Whoops. Oh,
All
well.
right.
Thanks all.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.